Summer is for growing. Hi friends, summer is such an important season. This is the season where we're growing and nurturing our seeds that we planted in the spring. So if we're a farmer and we're taking care of our crops, or we're a home gardener and we're taking care of our garden, what we planted in the spring, we nurture and help grow all summer until we reap the harvest in the fall. So if we follow this idea of the seasons, then I am curious how come I see so many people taking the summers off and not tending their garden and not growing. Maybe weeds will start developing, or maybe because they're not watering and paying attention to what they planted in the spring, that anything can happen all summer and they'll be surprised in the fall, right? And so I think about this. I think about, what seeds did I plant in the spring? Well, I intentionally planted seeds of kindness and generosity and gratitude. And then I probably also planted some weeds that I didn't realize, like frustration or irritation or whatever, right? We all plant all kinds of things. So how discerning are we about it? How are we really paying attention to what we are planting and then what we're growing? So are we fertilizing our seeds over the summer? Are we making sure they have enough water and enough shade and direct sunlight? Are we weeding our garden so that the weeds don't choke out our seedlings of the things we desire? Now, so many times I see people say they want certain things in their life, like happiness or a relationship or to eat better, all these things, and they plant those seeds, but yet they don't tend to those seeds. They tend to the seeds of self-doubt or grief or fear or guilt. And then those weeds grow and choke out their beautiful seeds that they planted. And so I have a 4-step little thing I think about when I think of the word grow or growth in the summer, that reminds me of the principles behind this whole idea of growing things and having the summer being the time where things grow and mature so that we can harvest them in the fall. See, I don't look at summer as always just vacationing and playing around. I understand that this is the time of year to really focus on developing and growing and supporting the bringing together, the outpicturing, the showing up of whatever it was I've planted in the spring. So the G for grow, in my mind, stands for grace. Now, grace is a simple elegance or refinement of movement. So I look at the universe as having elegant simplicity, of the beautiful, simple elegance of nature. A flower comes up and it blooms beautifully right on time. I have rose bushes and gardenias here at my home, and they grow and they bud and they bloom right on time. There is an elegant simplicity to the natural world. Same thing with the stars and the moon. There's an elegance and a simplicity and a beauty of that flow. And so when I think of growing in the summer, I think about grace, about how that elegance, that simplicity, that flow that's normal and natural to our natural world, that if I allow myself, if you allow yourself to get in that flow and feel that grace, your growth experience in the summer becomes one of beauty and magnificence and awe and fun. Grace also stands for being courteous and having goodwill for others. And I think that that's so important, because it's the opposite of that give me, give me, give me, and that greed that we see. And so grace for me is the beginning of growth. And R is, for me, reverence. R stands for reverence, which is a deep respect. A deep respect for all beings, a deep respect for the seeds I planted, for the soil they're in, for the growth season of the summer, deep respect for all other beings. Because really, Einstein was right when he said, everything's connected to everything. Everyone's connected to everyone. So whatever we do to ourselves or to another, we are doing to all humans, all beings. So when we really think about these things in a greater picture and we grow into a more transformative way of experiencing the seasons, we realize that that reverence really supports our growth when we really understand it. Even just today, I had an appointment someplace. They canceled it and forgot to tell me they canceled it. I drove a long distance to get there, and I could have gotten upset or frustrated or whatever. And instead I said, well, it was a beautiful day. And no, I couldn't understand why nobody called to confirm, but I thought maybe that you were busy. And so now I know why. And thank you very much. Because I'm aware that what I say as a response to anything is also affecting everybody all the time. And I have reverence for that. A deep respect for all humans, a deep respect for myself first, and then everyone else. So if you secretly don't respect yourself, or you have a lot of self-doubt, or there's a lot of that inner chatter that's not so friendly, it might come out sideways in your growing season or in any other season. So this growing season is about getting rid of the weeds of self-doubt, getting rid of the weeds of the thinking of I'm not good enough or I'll never measure up, getting rid of the weeds of perceived trauma or upset or disconnection, so that we can have deep reverence for the process and for what we're creating. And it's that deep reverence that goes with grace that really sets us up to have a beautiful, beautiful summer growth experience and an awesome fall. Now the O stands for to overlook. To overlook those things that don't serve us, right? To not get all caught up in the weeds, so to speak. To understand that maybe in the spring we weren't so discerning and we might have planted some weed seeds that we didn't realize that's what they were. Or maybe weed seeds just kind of flew in and landed in our garden. So we want to be aware that it's time to overlook, to exclude some of the things that don't work for us or that we don't want to grow. So there's this interesting vine that grows in my front garden that's invasive, and it doesn't go with my garden. I didn't plant it there. I don't even know how it got there. But it keeps trying to grow and choke out my other beautiful bushes. So I'm out there cutting it back and pulling it out and trimming it and pruning it and not allowing the weed to overtake or choke out the beauty of what was planted intentionally in the garden. So what do you need to overlook or prune back or omit from your beautiful garden? You're the garden of your life, the landscape, in order to be able to have a nice harvest in the fall. One of the things that goes with this is passing up temptations and distractions. Like, it's very tempting to say, well, I'm going to do this or that or go play. Or I have some friends of mine and some clients of mine too that are working on changing their nutritional habits. And they're like, well, I'm really going to cut down white sugar. And then in the next sentence, they're talking about eating chocolate cake or going to have extra ice cream or I deserve that candy bar. Well, those are temptations. Those are distractions from the actual seed of health and nutrition from growing. Those are weeds. They're going to choke that out if we're not careful. So our thoughts, our actions, and how they align has everything to do with our success in the summer, our growing season, so that our fall is a time where we are reaping the reward of what we intentionally planted. So if you're planting seeds of health, then the question is what I'm about to do going to get me where I say I want to go, right? Am I planting the seeds of health, and am I overlooking, omitting, weeding out the weeds, the seeds of self-doubt, or maybe the seeds of body image issues, or the seeds of self-deprecation? You know, I have somebody I work with who uses self-deprecating, in quotes, humor. That's not humor. You know, the seed is the seed. If I say, you know, I'm dumb, and I'm not, I'm gifted, then the I'm dumb seed will try to take root. It's really a weed seed though, right? Because it's not the truth. So how many weed seeds have you planted? How many ones have you planted intentionally? Those are the questions. Those are the things to look at in the summer, because see, it's the beginning of the summer. And if maybe you weren't so discerning in the spring of what seeds you planted, now you can start planting some other seeds that still have the whole summer to grow, right? And then the W is to be willing. And that means to fertile the soil, be willing to grow and change, be willing to prune back what is overgrowing, be willing to pull out those weeds, be ready, be eager to really grow your garden. Your garden is your thoughts, your consciousness, your actual physical environment. It's everywhere. What are you growing in your life? Are you growing quality relationships? Are you growing integrity, honesty, graciousness, kindness? Are you growing fear, self-doubt, criticism? What are you growing? Intentionally and unintentionally, because this is the season of growth. Now, if you plant seeds of grief, say, or distraction, something like that, then those seeds will try to grow. So you want to really look at what seeds am I planting, really. You don't plant an apple seed and expect to get pears. You know, the acorn of an oak tree will not yield you a weeping willow tree. It's not how it works. That the seed that germinates is the result of what you planted. So what I do in my world is I spend a lot of time in my own mind paying attention to what seeds have I planted. So this spring, I have planted seeds of inner freedom, of joy, of play, right? I have planted seeds of connection, of relationship, things that are important to me. I have planted seeds of connection with nature. Now I know there's weeds in there too. Sometimes I have weeds in there of self-doubt. I have weeds in there sometimes of guilt, you know, like maybe I didn't do something right, or maybe there's something wrong with me. Sometimes I have seeds, those weed seeds that get in there about not measuring up, or I'll never get to where I want to go, those kinds of almost self-defeatist things. So when I catch those seeds trying to take root, that's when I overlook them. That's when I pull them out. So let's review. G is for grace, right? The grace is that elegant simplicity, that beauty that we walk upon the earth, so that we, Native Americans talk about walking on the earth with gentle feet, with having that movement and that beauty and that flow that has a lot of reverence. That's the R, where we're reverent, where we're deeply connected. We care deeply about what's happening within ourselves, in our lives, in the world around us. It matters, right? O is to overlook or pull out the weeds that are starting to grow that you planted, you didn't realize it, or the ones that just kind of dropped in. Because seeds travel in the air, so you don't always have to have planted that weed for it to start growing. So that's why the summer is time to be tending the garden and making sure that the seeds that you want to grow and flourish and bring you fruit and reward in the fall are the actual ones that you're growing, right? And then W is to be willing and ready to take the action that's necessary to water and make sure that there's enough sun and enough shade for your seeds to grow, to nurture your garden, your inner garden and your outer garden, to use this metaphor of growth during the summer to remind us that this is the season to really take care of things, to really nurture, to really go deep into the connection you have with what you're growing emotionally, what you're growing mentally, what you're growing physically. Yeah, all the levels. Because when the fall gets here, we're going to be reaping the reward of these things we grew all summer. So when I see people take the whole summer off, so to speak, and they're not paying attention to what they're growing, and then when the fall comes, they're going to be surprised and wonder why they don't have what they thought they were going to have, but they didn't tend to the garden. We don't plant seeds and ignore them, and we don't plant seeds and try to hurry them up, because there is an elegant beauty to nature. She knows what she's doing, and there's a timing and a beautiful flow to it all. So we sit back, we admire, we take care of, we're good stewards. Being a good steward means to take the highest and best care of something. And that's what our summer is, devoted to the highest and best care of the seeds that we have planted, and to make sure that our garden is well fertilized with lots of water and sun and nurturing, so that the harvest we reap will be the one we intended. So your summer is a time of growth. It's a time for all of us to grow. Now there's also the metaphorical summer, right? Where it's maybe not the season summer. It could be that you planted a really great idea and maybe it was in the fall. And then the next season is growing that idea. And so the whole idea here is, the whole concept that I want us to really wrap our mind around is, when we make a decision that we're going to go after a goal or we plant a seed in any way, that the next step is to nurture that and to grow it, and to understand that there's a timing for the unfoldment, for the development of whatever it is that we're growing. Some seeds take longer to germinate than others. So it's all about allowing ourselves to be in the flow with whatever we've planted. It's very exciting, actually. I love the summer because it is a season of growing. So I hope that these steps have inspired you to take a step back and look at, what are we growing this summer? And is what you're growing what you intend to have harvest of in the fall? And if not, what new seeds can you plant right now so they have the whole summer to grow? It's not too late to plant seeds of self-love and radical self-compassion and kindness and generosity. It's not too late. So plant the seeds, nurture them, grow them. Allow the elegance and the reverence of the world we live in and of your inner being to come together and create something even more beautiful and magical than you can see at this moment in time. Anyway, so use this summer to grow, okay? So remember something. Remember that you're beautiful, you are lovable, and you are very capable. And so until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, be well.